Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope there are many guests this evening. I would like to welcome you all to today's event called Team Training Tuesday. Otherwise, I like to call it Applied Neolife. My name is Dr. Esa Zanambasi. I'm a medical doctor by training. I've been involved with Neolife for a few years now. But before that, I graduated from medical school. It's coming to 39 years. So I have seen quite a lot. I've seen the changes in practice. I've seen the changes in disease profile. And I think by going back to basics, we will do more for our health than trying to get the latest and the greatest medication or investigation and all that. Because ultimately, the best way to preserve your health and to be healthy is to make sure that you prevent challenges. So this is continuing with the theme that we started, back to basics. We started that last week. And I want to say we're having another look at the history of lifestyle change and the impact on our health. So today we are going to discuss peptic ulcers. I'm sure many of you have wondered what are the causes of peptic ulcers and how can we try our level best to avoid them or even to heal them. It is quite a vexing issue, isn't it? So today I want us to have a thought-provoking discussion to stimulate lifestyle change. Because remember, we belong to a family called Neolife, which is on a mission to make the world healthier and happier and to end the trend of chronic disease and financial stress. So, right, can we resolve to renew our minds? Yes, we can. And this is why I say that most times we wait to get symptoms before we take action. I want us to renew our mind and say, before those symptoms start, what can we do differently? And that is the gist that I've taken this whole discussion on peptic ulcers. That is the approach or the perspective I've taken. So what are peptic ulcers? Good question. An area or a spot where the lining and underlying tissue, usually the muscle in the gut, somewhere in the gut, have been eroded, leaving an open wound. Generally, those are peptic ulcers, but you can have an ulcer anywhere in the body. Peptic ulcers can occur anywhere along the gastrointestinal tract, but the commonest points that they occur are in the stomach, in which case they're called gastric ulcer, or in the duodenum, that's a duodenal ulcer. And what happens is that the area surrounding the ulcer becomes inflamed, and the hallmark of inflammation is swelling, pain, redness, and they may even bleed. Now here, I think this is a very conservative figure. They said 10 to 20% of adult population are affected. But I believe it is very difficult to put a percentage. It depends on the environment and the circumstances. So if one lives in a particularly stressful village, nation, continent, town, you might find that this percentage is actually higher. So it depends. Right, so this is just a picture to show what I've just described. You have the esophagus, that is the tube that carries food from the stomach, rather from the mouth to the stomach. And so you can have ulcers in the esophagus, you can have ulcers in the stomach itself. And then the first part of the small intestine is what we call the duodenum. You can have a duodenal ulcer. And that one can be quite serious. Okay, so what are the symptoms? In other words, how are they commonly described? Because it is a very subjective description by the person affected. There might be chronic burning pain in that area that we call the epigastric area, simply meaning on top of the stomach. Wherever you see epi on top of, gastric is the stomach, okay? So epigastric pain. So the person may point at an area with a finger very specifically, or it might be a vague pain using the palm of the hand. Usually starts 45 to 60 minutes after eating food. And obviously that makes sense because that's when, particularly in a stomach ulcer, that's when there's a lot of digestive juices being released. Sometimes it starts at night. It may wake up, one might wake up with intense pain. And that is actually the very descriptive point about duodenal ulcers. They tend to wake somebody up at night with intense pain because by then the stomach has emptied and now the duodenum is receiving all that irritation. It is often relieved by eating or by vomiting, or as people would do, taking antacids, or even drinking a large glass of water. That may relieve that pain for a while. But pain ranges from mild to severe. Then, interestingly enough, there are other symptoms of ulcers, such as lower back pain, headaches, a choking sensation. And I've heard a lot of people describe that choking sensation. What can I take to take away that choking sensation? Well, it could well be something lower down, such as an ulcer. Then nausea and vomiting. And then amazingly, itchiness of the skin. So why do ulcers happen in the first place? I think this is more like how do ulcers happen, but why do they happen? The lining of the stomach fails to secrete adequate protection against the effects of digestive acids. So the net result of that is that the stomach itself begins to be digested. If there is not enough protection, the stomach tissue and ultimately the stomach muscle will begin to be digested by the very acid that is supposed to be helping to break down protein. So too much stomach acid and or insufficient production of mucus in the lining is why ulcers happen. So perhaps we should be looking at factors that cause there to be too much acid and insufficient production of stomach lining mucus. So that is an interesting approach. But let's look at this. This is one of the pictures I like to show. The difference between the outside world and our bloodstream, which is down here, is just this one layer thick set of cells, which if they develop an ulcer, obviously will break down and create a lot of leakages. So eventually a lot of disease processes can happen. And now that breakdown of that lining can happen if we are perpetually, for example, taking a lot of food that is unhealthy. We are using a lot of antibiotics. We are allowing undigested food particles to arrive in the stomach. And then perhaps there might be a lot of pathogens. We are eating a lot of food that might have a lot of disease-causing organisms. So we have to be quite careful. And the net result of that is that we feel these symptoms and then we resort to taking tablets, like to kill the pain, and then other things like stress, and then toxins, for example. Alcohol can be quite toxic. Okay, so this is just to show that whenever there is any disruption to the gut, we start getting all sorts of other problems as well. So let us have a look quickly at factors that affect stomach acid secretion. The first one on the list is stress. Anxiety increases acid secretion. Now, we all have, to one level or another, some forms and some causes for anxiety. So we need to look at our lifestyles and see whether that is indeed the case. And even if we go into denial, which is a good place to be, you know, to deny that there's anything causing stress. And yet in the subconscious, there's a lot of stress going on. We need to become mindful and to be aware of the causes of stress. A common one that I can think of in today's world is the sense of insecurity due to the poor financial situations that we find ourselves in. And then the overuse of smoking and alcohol, that is an example of toxic use, rather toxic causes. And then certain medications, certain supplements even. And then it may be associated, it's actually often found to be associated with infection by a bacterium called Helicobacter pylori. And so people have actually turned it around and said it is the cause of ulcers. I'm here to differ a little bit. It's the way I want us to renew our thinking and maybe broaden the things we blame for the cause of ulcers and not try to pinpoint just one item. So that's why we need to be asking ourselves, what else could it be? Yes, it could be a hiatal hernia where the stomach protrudes through the diaphragm into the chest cavity. That may result from any cause of either it may be congenital, okay? It means that person was born with a weakness at the bottom of the diaphragm such that the stomach protrudes through. Or it may be following trauma. It becomes commoner as one ages, but also situations like increased intra-abdominal pressure, in other words, too much pressure in the abdomen, may begin causing hiatal hernia, such as a pregnancy or a tumor, or being overweight and frankly obese. And then there might be heartburn, very, very, very common problem, where there's reflux of gastric contents, again, due to weakness of the lower sphincter, that valve at the bottom of the esophagus that is supposed to close off the contents of the stomach. Okay, so that might cause a problem that we call gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD. That's what GERD stands for. It might be as a result of food allergies causing a magnification of inflammation. And over a prolonged time, this eventually might cause that area to be so damaged that it can result in a hiatal hernia. So whenever we talk about allergies and sensitivities, it can have a very broad ramifications, can have broad ramifications to our health. And then the last one that please note when you are asking what else could it be, this ulcer pain, it could actually be a heart attack. And now heart attacks are not always dramatic. You sort of pass out, keel over, die immediately. No, it can be something that is compromising the blood flow to the heart and resulting in a little bit at a time, death to the heart muscle. And that results in a heart attack. Now, yes, we can think of a lot of other things, but these are the main ones that I thought about. But now, let us consider ulcers from a different perspective. And I just want to point out, for those of you who don't know me, I introduced myself as a medical doctor, and I've been a bit of a disruptor ever since I was at medical school, in that I always want to think, what else could it be? And how else could we look at this situation? And I am so grateful that I came across this particular family called Neolife, because it has allowed me to create a career that I personally call connecting the dots. So let us consider ulcers from a different perspective by connecting a lot of dots. And I hope you can connect the dots with me. And remember, our mission is to make the world a healthier and happier place. And it will always start with you personally taking responsibility, okay? So are we ready for this? The first point to remember is mindset, because your body hears everything your mind says. So if you have an ingrained negative mindset, because of your life circumstances, granted, because of perhaps your interpersonal relationships that are not always the best, okay? Whatever it is, I'm not going to pass any judgment, but what I am saying is that we have to understand that we can control our attitudes, okay? So I won't spend too much time on that, but yes, your body hears everything your mind says. So we want to find a way to hack a certain nerve called the vagus nerve, so that we can improve digestion, we can improve mood, and we can improve our energy levels. So what is the vagus nerve? It is the longest pair of nerves in our body. It connects the brain to every organ in our body, namely the lungs, the heart, the stomach, the esophagus, the ovaries, the whole gut, and the bladder, the works, okay? As you can see, it sort of sends a tributary to all the places. And that should tell us something, that if the mind is working in a way, and the mind, by the way, sits in the brain, right? Is working in a way that is creating a lot of the vagus nerve, or most of the vagus nerve, to be on tension and not relaxed, because the vagus nerve, its duty is to relax the body. It is the one that is responsible, rest, digest, and rest and relaxation and digestion. Whereas all the other nerves that might spring off, but are in another system called the sympathetic nervous system, are the ones that cause fight or flight, or freeze for that matter. Okay, so we want to get into the habit of toning our vagus nerve so that we can have a better function of the entire system within us. So how do we do that? Okay. That is why we need to know why this massive pathway controls everything from inflammation to anxiety and depression. And that's why there is that amazing connection called the the brain-gut connection. Some put it the gut-brain connection or the brain-gut connection. Be that as it may, always remember that your body listens to what the mind says, and you need to start being so aware of the choices that you make, because in order to heal the way the vagus nerve works and increase its tone, it's very much like a muscle. You'll exercise it so that you can heal your gut, you can balance your minerals, because if there is too much acidity in you, that is an imbalance of minerals and fluids. You can even fix a hiatal hernia. And one way of doing it is, rather than being on tension all the time in the fight or flight mode, you can resolve to find ways to laugh more, because laughing is so helpful for stimulating the vagus nerve. And then other things like humming and singing. Now, by the time you resolve to sing and hum, you must have told yourself that I'm going to take on a positive attitude here. And I'm so glad to see that we are, as a team and as a family, the Neolife family and team, so focused and much more focused now on the value of having fun and the value of rejoicing and value of being happy for others, okay? Then other things, simple things like you can gargle daily, you can do breathing exercises, and you can work on reducing tension in your neck and shoulders. One way of doing that is having regular massages, or perhaps doing other modalities like Epsom salt baths. There are many ways, or exercise for that matter. Okay. So that is the new perspective, but here we go. You can find bits and pieces of advice in a lot of literature. For example, 7 ways to instantly stimulate your vagus nerve. I've given you some, and I'll give you some more as we go along. To fight inflammation, and remember, peptic ulcers are a form of inflammation. To fight depression. Depression will lead to ulcers. Stress will lead to ulcers. To reduce the frequency with which one has migraine headaches. And so we have these 7 keys that we like to talk about: regular exercise, adequate and nutritious food, try and get some sunshine, because we have shown that our bodies respond very well to the effects of the sun. Aside from creating more vitamin D, there are so many other benefits of being out in the sun. Literally, in places where they have long, harsh winters, a lot of people are stressed out and suffer from seasonal affective disorder, which is a form of depression, because they don't see the sun. So here, where we have abundance of sun, we should use it as much as possible. And then switch off electronics, particularly close to bedtime. And I was hearing some good advice, but at least an hour before you turn in, make sure that you've turned off your electronics and rather read a book or something like that, so that you calm down and tone your vagus nerve for rest and relaxation. And then proactively bring down chronic stress. So if you know, for example, that, hey, the cause of my stress is because I'm not making enough money. We belong to a family called Neolife, where we are taught how to save money and to make money and to build good interpersonal relations. That is really being proactive. And that's why I enjoy what we do so much. Get enough sleep, again, important for toning the vagus nerve, and then ditch those toxic chemicals. So let's carry on. We are going to see a lot more. And remember to breathe, because by exercising and learning how to do good breathing exercises, it's a big way of toning the vagus nerve, because a lot of people are very shallow breathers. They breathe in the top third of their lungs, and the rest of the lungs don't work, and that can cause a lot of health issues. So I hope by now, many of you are saying to yourself, I now suspect that the vagus nerve is the key to well-being. You're right. You are right. So let's look at some recommendations as far as diet is concerned, because ultimately I want to introduce to the guests how we can plug those dietary gaps that are invariably in our diets. But as regards diet, plenty of dark green leafy vegetables will give you things like folic acid, which is a form of B vitamin. You'll get a lot of phytonutrients, but you also get vitamin K, which in our case, we are talking about ulcers today. That is very important for healing. Now, that is in contrast to our tendency to eat a lot of meat. A lot of people think that a sign of affluence is to eat lots and lots and lots of meat, okay? That is so damaging to the stomach lining, because one needs a lot of acid to digest that meat. And you need a lot of energy as well. Okay, then avoid coffee, alcohol. Some say strong spices, yeah? Fried foods, carbonated drinks. And then also, if you can, avoid cow's milk, because a lot of people used to say, oh, wow, drink a lot of milk, it will neutralize the stomach acid. Yes, it does. But it then stimulates vigorous secretion of acid, because the protein and the calcium in the milk need quite a bit of acid to be present. And then freshly juiced cabbage has been shown to aid with healing. I would request that you please stop writing on the screen. It can be disruptive. So yes, I want us to compare and contrast modern diets with traditional diets. And this is what we're talking about, because all these things, if this isn't a new word, ulcer causing, I was thinking of a word like ulcerogenic, but they cause ulcers because they can be very, very, in their own right, irritating, like cured meats and preserved foods and oils and carbonated drinks, and obviously all the preservatives and colorings that go in there, as opposed to traditional food, which we should be eating more of. And we've talked about cabbage, and we've talked about other things like broccoli and lettuce and all those green things to provide the vitamin K. So habits and practices that will help you. Small meals, chew thoroughly, do not smoke, keep the colon clean through regular detoxes, and avoid those tablets that are very stressful to the stomach lining, and also avoid stressful situations if you can. My recommendation on that is hang out with the Neolife family. If you're not in the family yet, this is a good time to turn to the person who has invited you here and say, how do I join this family? will tell you. So the points to ponder are, while prescription drugs may temporarily relieve symptoms, they do not address the root cause. And the root cause of that is that there is damaged tissue, the root cause of ulcers. And then by temporarily reducing stomach acid with all those antacids and H2 acid blockers, they also disrupt normal digestive processes, such as the functioning of the gallbladder, the functioning of the pancreas to release insulin at the right time, okay, as well as damaging the tissues in the gut, the lining. The other thing to remember is healing an ulcer is not a quick fix. It's not an overnight thing. It may take a long time. It may take years. Even after the symptoms subside, it may still be very vulnerable to being disrupted. So be patient. And then a lot of antacids that people have used chronically contain a fair amount of aluminium, and that has been linked to Alzheimer's. So those are just some points that I thought I would highlight as we carry on. We've talked about this, but just as a reminder, you can look at this, stimulating your vagus nerve. Important things like an omega-3 rich diet. For the guests, you might be wondering, what is that? Or where do I get that from? Well, we're about to tell you. Other things like showing love to people, hugging, massages, okay? And then intermittent fasting. I think I mentioned it last week. My take on intermittent fasting and its value, and fasting generally, but that also removes the stress on the stomach lining rather than grazing or eating, snacking all the time. So I've picked a few from there, but you can look at this slide later on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to say that your choices matter. And so you need to ask yourself, are all supplements equal, and are all detergents the same? And does it matter what personal care products I use or you use? So this is what we want to share with you. And there's somebody called Maureen, I think, who's writing and insists on writing on my screen. Please stop. So, are all supplements equal? Does it matter what I use? That's what we are about to share with you. So I want us to discuss what is bioavailable. It's something that you will hear a lot of in this family. We often discuss our products as being highly bioavailable. It's a term that is used to describe the proportion of food or drug which enters circulation when introduced to the body for it to have an active effect. So as regards nutrients, it's a measure of the rate that a supplement is absorbed within the body, okay? And ours that we want to share with you are highly bioavailable. And I'm going to pick out a few and substantiate it. So to the guests, you must be asking yourself, can I trust you? And why do you want me to trust you? Well, there's been some research done on several occasions, I guess, where there are hidden dangers that lurk in over-the-counter supplements. And a research that was done a few years ago found that over 700 different products that were marketed as dietary supplements, in fact, contained hidden active ingredients that were found to be unsafe or unstudied. So a lot of people use over-the-counter preparations because they are accessible, but they don't know who has prepared them. They have no idea what the ingredients are. Okay, they say over 95% of products are that way. So I want to start right here and say that the Neolife difference that makes all the difference is the fact that we have a scientific advisory board which research and develop everything that we have. The founder member was a top toxicologist and pharmacologist and cancer researcher who declared that nutrition was the way to go as regards prevention of cancer. And that's how he came across to Neolife, because Neolife looked like it was doing the right thing, which it has always done, which is everything has to be based in nature and backed by science. So in the mid-70s, he set up this scientific advisory board. And recently, we've had a few more additions to the board. And these are real people whom we can have the pleasure of meeting when they come to visit us. So that is the Neolife difference. And the big difference is that everything about their nutrition supplements that the supplements work at a cellular level. This is an example of a cell, and inside the cell you have these little things called mitochondria that do the work of that particular cell. So the perspective I want you to look at is that disease is in fact failure at that level. Mitochondrial failure is the reason that disease happens. So if, as we are discussing ulcers now, if the mitochondria of those very active cells in the stomach and the gastrointestinal lining begin to fail because of one reason or another, perhaps they're not being fed properly, then the tissue begins to break down, right? And breakdown of tissue and erosion and ulcers are what we are describing now. So if you can reframe every disease process as mitochondrial failure, you'll actually say, okay, what did our creator intend for us to do? And it was to eat human natural nutrition. Is it easy? One has to try all the time. And how to heal your vagus nerve, I've described that vagus nerve that goes to all the key organs, including the gastrointestinal tract. How to heal it is to start at the beginning with the foundation. So we have this product that we call TreeNN, and all we can tell the guests is that with the right nutrition, your cells can perform their very best for your well-being and vitality. This is always where to start. Whenever anybody asks you, what do I give for? Find out how much they're willing to spend. And if the budget is at that point limited, and that could be one of the reasons that they're stressed out and therefore developing ulcers, this is affordable. In whatever currency you're talking, it is an affordable product and it is life-changing. And it comes along with other products that it can work with in synergy. So as things improve, as TreeNN helps to create those hormones and enzymes and calms one down, then the possibilities of adding other things such as omega-3, the antioxidants, and vitamins and minerals becomes so attractive because of the results that TreeNN will give you. But if you can put them together, we call this combination pro-vitality. And then we have, beyond that, the core nutrition, which includes the amino acids, all 22 amino acids, and those are key for healing, for repair, and for generally the good functioning of the body. And I will highly recommend them. They can come up front, depending on the budget, In fact, if you can start them early, the earlier you start them, the better. But in this family, you can build things up. And whatever product you will start with, particularly if you start with 3NN, you will see results. And the shake is important in that it maintains blood sugar in an even zone. It's called the glycemic control zone, the blood sugar control zone, in other words. Now, one of the biggest causes of stress that is actually subconscious, you don't know it is happening, but it is happening. And that is the roller coaster of blood sugar, up and down through the day. You have a big meal of breakfast, and by 10 o'clock, you are running to buy something to fill that gap because the blood sugar has plummeted. Then the blood sugar will go up because you've perhaps eaten a cake or a donut, or you've had mandazi or whatever. And then by 1 o'clock, it has plummeted. And that is the kind of cycle that will happen if you're snacking throughout the day. And that is why intermittent fasting is important for stress management, okay? But the New Life Shake is made in such a way, is very specifically made to keep us well controlled so that the glycemic response control technology that it has will ensure that you won't have that roller coaster ride through your day and you won't be stressed. So I highly recommend it, as I do omega-3. Ours is complete. Other companies produce omegas, granted, but theirs might not be as complete. Ours is totally complete, and it brings down inflammation very, very effectively. And remember, that's a hallmark of ulcers, inflammation. Minerals, very important, and all minerals like magnesium and calcium, zinc, have that antacid property, yet they go in there to do a job, okay? They will build the enzymes, they will cause repair, for example, zinc. And so these are very, very important for healing and for prevention of ulcers. The difference with ours is that they are double amino acid chelated, which means they're highly bioavailable. I've described what bioavailability means, high bioavailability. You can't go wrong with our CalMag. And for people with ulcers, you don't want to irritate the stomach anymore by using a different brand. Ours is less irritating to the stomach and intestines, and it is very rapidly absorbed because it disintegrates and disperses very quickly. And so that is it. It has vitamin D as well. So, you know, you meet people every day. These are the kinds of people you meet. A busy business person, or a politician, or just a businessman, you know, a lady who might be a school teacher, or a mom, or, you know, an executive as well, working in an office. These are the kind of people who are stressed out. Not exclusively them. All of us have a measure of stress, but these are the people that you need to approach and show them that zinc will help them, CalMag will help them, and everything else that I've talked about. And so when you hear that word about what do I give for ulcers? Well, now you have a good idea where to begin. Prevention by cellular nutrition and detoxification is important. These are two key products, garlic and Beta-Guard, useful for detox, but always put 3NN at the center. And before that, always remember to eat good food. Okay, so I put this picture together with that in mind. And then we have the best stress reliever is called aloe vera. It helps to manage stress, and hopefully you can build your businesses to such an extent that this becomes like one of your regular supplements, because stress inhibits true learning, true and effective learning. And one of our hallmarks in this family is to learn so that we can teach others. Then finally, as we reach the end of this, make the changes to reduce stress. If you're using toxins in your home in the name of cleaning products, toxic ones that have a lot of chemicals, change that. Because again, it's a form of very subconscious, very under the radar cause of stress. Similarly with your skincare, change, just change and you will see. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. In this family, we believe that if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. So somebody might have a very hectic chronic ulcer and they come to you and you make a few recommendations and they'll say, actually, the truth is that I can't afford this. You've got everything to share. You can share your TNN, you can share the business opportunity. And I didn't go into too many details. I didn't want to confuse us, but this is about building good interpersonal relations, using good products to create a business for you and for me, and to make the world a healthier and happier place. Thank you very much. And now we are going to look at the time first of all. Yeah, we can chat for a few minutes if you want to chat. Thank you.